We are going to see the solar eclipse that is occurring across the United States.
The last couple of weeks we've seen a big influx of calls coming in for reservations.
Reservations went like hotcakes. They are all pretty much booked up.
We're going to actually try to get the total solar eclipse and actually try to kind of, if you will, chase it.
I think there's something kind of like mysterious and dark and foreboding about the eclipse.
We expect the animals to take it in stride.
It's just really exciting. You're not going to see it again.
It's the most anticipated astronomical event of 2024, a total solar eclipse. This year, millions of people in the northern parts of Mexico, the US, and southeastern Canada will experience totality. Many of them will be right here in New York State. For the last nearly year and a half, agencies across the state have been preparing for a surge of thousands of visitors, excited to take part in this once-in-a-lifetime experience. The entire News Channel 13 team came together to bring you extensive coverage of this phenomenon, what to expect, how to prepare, where to go, and how to make the most of this highly anticipated event. The Darkest Hour, sponsored by Marcella's Appliance. So what is a total solar eclipse? A solar eclipse happens when the moon passes between the sun and Earth. Sometimes the moon only blocks part of the sun's light, and this is called a partial solar eclipse. But when the moon blocks all of the sun's light, we get a total solar eclipse. As the moon blocks the sun's light, it casts a shadow on part of the Earth. As the Earth rotates, the moon's shadow creates a trail. This trail is called the path of totality. In the path of totality, the moon completely blocks the sun's light for a few minutes. It gets so dark that it looks like nighttime. Being able to actually experience a total solar eclipse is very rare, as you have to be somewhere on the path of totality at the exact right time. The total solar eclipse will be over New York on April 8th, 2024, beginning at 3:16 p.m. The moon will pass between the Earth and the sun, turning day into night for 1.5 minutes to 3.5 minutes. The roughly 100-mile wide path of totality will enter in the western part of the state and will exit through northern New York just before 3:30 p.m. Cities and towns within this path include Jamestown, Buffalo, Rochester, Syracuse, Watertown, Old Forge, Lake Placid, and Plattsburgh. The entire event will last up to 3.5 hours across the U.S., marking the time the sun is first obstructed in Texas to the last moments when the moon's shadow is cast in Maine. Through New York, the speed of the moon's shadow will accelerate from about 2,210 miles per hour to 2,735 miles per hour.
Thank you, sir. We couldn't see it here either. We'll wait 2 or 3.
You may be wondering if there are meteorological impacts tied to the total solar eclipse. This natural phenomenon is short-lived, so while you may not experience a drastic shift in the weather, some changes may be noticeable. During an eclipse, the moon moves between Earth and the sun for a short period of time. This blocks solar radiation from reaching the surface. The sudden reduction of sunlight often causes a drop in temperatures by a few degrees just before and during the period of totality. Temperatures then spike again after the sun is no longer obscured. The lack of warm air rising from the surface during the few minutes of darkness affects the lowest part of our atmosphere, which also causes changes in the clouds, wind speed, and direction. Cumulus clouds are low-level, sun-driven clouds that form as warm air rises. As the air cools near the ground during the eclipse, they can dissipate. Cooling at the surface also slows the swirling motion of air and often causes winds to turn counterclockwise.
The country is preparing for this eclipse on a never-before-seen scale. If you aren't aware yet how rare and unique this event will be, here's a few things you might find interesting. It'll be the longest U.S. total solar eclipse in centuries. At the U.S.-Mexico border, 4 minutes and 26 seconds of totality is possible. The last time this happened in North America was on June 16, 1806, when a total solar eclipse lasting up to 4 minutes 55 seconds surged across the U.S. It'll be the darkest U.S. total solar eclipse for 217 years. A long totality also means a darker totality, which could surprise eclipse chasers who witnessed the early twilight-like light during totality at the last U.S. total solar eclipse on August 21st, 2017. It is something of a long shot, but a comet may be visible during totality. The Devil Comet will be about 25 degrees from the Sun, relatively close to Jupiter. While Jupiter should be visible during totality to the naked eye, the comet won't be as easily seen unless it has an outburst, something it's done before. If you plan to observe totality through binoculars, it may be worth a quick scan to look for it. Mercury and Venus will also be visible on April 8th. Finally, it'll be the most watched total solar eclipse ever in North America. About 31 million people in the U.S. live inside the path of totality, which will go through parts of 15 states. Add northern Mexico and Canada, and it's around 40 million.
There's no doubt New Yorkers will get a spectacular show come April 8th. How spectacular depends on where you are. Faith King takes a look at the best places to check out the phenomenon.
Here in the capital region, we will see partial totality, more than 97% coverage. Your best bet to see totality, the moon totally covering the sun, will be to the north and west. The full solar eclipse will be seen in a path across western and northern New York, from Buffalo to Rochester to Plattsburgh. These areas will see about 3.5 minutes of totality. You can also enjoy the special celestial event at the historic Olympic Park in Lake Placid, home of the 1980 Winter Olympic Games. Visitors will be able to enjoy the day at one of the many eclipse viewing parties at Olympic legacy sites like Glow for the Gold. And in Plattsburgh, SUNY Plattsburgh is offering festivities for those who want to enjoy the event there. If you plan to stick closer to home, you've got plenty of options. A solar eclipse is best viewed outdoors in a wide open space, away from buildings and artificial light. In Albany, some great spots include the Pine Bush Preserve, the Crossings of Colony, or the Corning Preserve. Plenty of local high schools will also be getting in on the action, hosting watch parties for students and their families. The MySci Planetarium in Schenectady will allow guests to view the eclipse safely through telescopes or eclipse glasses. Solar eclipse-themed activities will be held all day at the Berkshire Atheneum in Pittsfield. The library will provide 100 pairs of free certified safe shades on a first-come, first-served basis. The Adirondacks will be a prime spot for solar eclipse enthusiasts. There are plenty of public parks and overlooks, fields, beaches, and lakes. While hiking to the top of a mountain sounds like a great way to see the total solar eclipse, the Department of Environmental Conservation does not recommend hiking the Adirondack high peaks or any trails above 3,000 feet elevation to do so. The agency cites the muddy conditions. There is also a good chance of icy trails in some areas at this time of year that will be even more treacherous in darkness. If you're planning to go hiking, search for a low elevation trail with open views. Whatever you do, don't miss it. You'll have to wait at least another 20 years before you will be able to see another total eclipse from the U.S.
There have been a lot of conversations about eye safety. You've probably heard by now that it's not safe to look directly at the sun during the eclipse, but there's a lot more to it than that. Looking directly at the sun, even for a few seconds, can basically create the equivalent of a burn on the retina. And it doesn't matter how much of the sun is visible.
And when the sun is even partially eclipsed, if any part of the sun is showing around the moon in this case, you'll still get enough of an intensity that if you look at it for any extended period of time, that brightness is enough to burn the retina.
Dr. Jonathan Huzz is a well-known ophthalmologist, a retina specialist at Albany Medical Center and retina consultants in Slingerlands. He says the effects of that retina burn from the sun, called solar retinopathy, are significant.
Same type of condition as people can get with a laser pointer injury or something like that, where people will notice blurring of their vision, they might notice blind spots in their vision, distortion of their vision, and it's particularly bothersome because this happens in the part of your vision that gives you your central vision.
Dr. Huzz says the real effects will usually happen later that day or the next day. There is no treatment, and in many cases, the damage is permanent. Regular sunglasses are not enough to look at the eclipse. The American Astronomical Society has a list of places to get approved safety glasses.
The ones that are officially approved for use during the eclipse are about 1,000 times dimmer than normal sunglasses. So,
do not use a camera, binoculars, or a telescope, even with the approved safety glasses. According to NASA, viewing any part of the sun without a special purpose filter will instantly cause severe eye injury.
so it'll actually could look brighter through a telescope or through a camera.
Most of us won't be able to see something like the great pictures we see online. And experts say be very cautious about children who may be curious when they see others looking up. The sun can be especially detrimental to a young eye.
Actually, the younger you are, the more susceptible your eyes are to damage from light as intense as the sun. So they're not only, not necessarily able to fully understand why they shouldn't be looking at the sun, but also maybe more susceptible.
There's not really any treatment for the damage, and some of it could be permanent. Again, Dr. Huz says it's best to do any viewing with approved glasses. In Albany, Kumi Tucker, News Channel 13.
Still ahead, you heard how dangerous the eclipse can be for your eyes. Caitlin Erla will show you where you can get safe and approved glasses to take it all in. And the eclipse is also risky for your phone. Before you try to snap a photo, Chris Honorato and photojournalist Alex Clary will show you how to make sure you get the best picture safely.
According to the American Astronomical Society, or the AAS, there are only 2 safe ways to view the solar eclipse. You need a pair of solar eclipse glasses like these, or a handheld viewer like this. Now, you can buy glasses like these online or in stores, but I'm going to explain to you exactly how to know if they're safe to use. The AAS advises people not to just sit down at your computer and Google solar eclipse glasses. They say many people will pick the first thing that pops up or maybe the cheapest option, and that's not the safe way to find the correct glasses. What you should do is go directly to the AAS website, which has a list of manufacturers where you can buy safe solar eclipse viewing glasses. So you want to go to eclipse.aas.org. You'll go right to the website. Scroll down to Eye Safety, scroll down to right here, suppliers of safe solar viewers and filters, and then you'll come on this page where there are tons and tons of retailers and manufacturers that you can buy from. Many of them are familiar even to this area. We'll look at the large retail chains. There's Lowe's, there's Walmart, there's 7-Eleven, there's Staples, even Cracker Barrels are giving them out. So this is a really great website to find a pair that is safe to use to view the solar eclipse. The glasses must meet the safety requirements of the ISO International Safety Standard and come from reputable manufacturers. There have been some companies selling counterfeit glasses, so it is important to pay attention to what you're buying. If you don't buy the correct glasses or don't wear any at all, you're risking serious damage to your eyes. It's important to mention that regular sunglasses are not a safe replacement. If you want to snag a free pair of Eclipse glasses, a limited quantity of I Love NY glasses are now available at 30 locations across the state. Glasses will be limited to 2 pairs per person while supplies last, with a limited amount distributed daily. The glasses are approved by the New York State Department of Health and carry an ISO certification. In our viewing area, the locations where you can get the special I Love NY Solar Eclipse glasses are the Capital Region Welcome Center, the New Baltimore Service Area, and the Adirondacks Welcome Center.
Pics or it didn't happen. There's more than a good chance you've heard or seen that phrase if you spend enough time on social media, and it's how a lot of people will feel about April 8th. And so we want to help you take pictures of the eclipse without damaging your eyes, phone, or camera. As you know, Bill, nobody ever anymore just kind of looks on their own, takes in the mental image, and that's it. We all walk around with one of these. So for people who, yes, want to be present for the total solar eclipse, but then look back on it, be it with a smartphone or more professional equipment, how can they do that safely?
It is extremely important that folks are not staring into the sun without some protection. It will hurt your eyes, it will damage them. Same for a lot of cameras too. So you want to have filtration. You want to put solar filters on your cameras.
That means protection for your eyes and any camera lens pointed towards the sun during the eclipse. NASA senior contract photographer Bill Ingalls says simply taping approved eclipse viewing glasses over your phone's lens will work. In 2017, Ingalls was in the Cascades of Washington State, where he witnessed more than 80% partial eclipse.
It turned into evening. The crickets around me started making noise. It got cooler.
Even with all of Ingalls' experience looking through a camera, working for NASA since 1989, he prepared himself for that photo opportunity as much as he could.
I went out to the location I had scouted the day before, and I did a practice run, just as I mentioned. Got a sense of where the sun will be on the horizon. The sun's going to be moving throughout all this, and so you're going to have to keep tracking it. And depending on how long your lens is, you may have to do more of that.
Ingalls' work has taken him all over the world for some of the most spectacular sights in recent history. And even as a photographer, his most impassioned piece of advice is this.
Put your phone down, put your camera down, and witness this firsthand. This is a rare, once-in-a-lifetime, perhaps for a lot of us, moment. There's plenty of professional photographers out there that will have plenty of imagery for you to see and share later.
Ingalls' work will take him out of the country up until close to eclipse time, so he won't be in the path of totality, but it's a bucket list item for someone who has seen more than most of us will in a lifetime.
I've already begun to plan for the very next one that exists, that whether NASA sends me or I send myself, I'm going to be there.
If you hit the road for the solar eclipse, you may be stuck in traffic for a while. Allie Hoy has some tips on how to stay safe on the roads on April 8th.
The eclipse is approaching fast, and we have some tips to help keep you safe behind the wheel. Hundreds of thousands of people are expected to head to spots like Buffalo, Rochester, and Syracuse that are in the path of totality on April 8th. That's a lot of extra people on the roads, so the Thruway Authority is asking people to follow these recommendations. Use parking areas like tech stops and park and ride lots for short-term parking only. Find a safe place to watch. Do not stop along the roadways, interstates, parkways, and freeways. And as always, obey traffic laws. If you're planning on watching, officials advise you to arrive early and stay late since there are risks before and after the moment of totality, not just when everything is dark. And as for what not to do, they point out not to block traffic. Don't stand alongside the highway or moving traffic. Don't use your phone while driving. And of course, don't drive recklessly. New York State Police say they're also preparing for people hitting the road for the eclipse. Acting Superintendent Stephen G. James says the New York State Police is committed to keeping New Yorkers safe and is prepared for any potential increase in traffic the eclipse may bring. They also advise that you give yourself extra travel time and be prepared for more people out and about. For more traffic updates on the eclipse, visit WNYT.com. Allie Hoy, News Channel 13.
When you're shopping for eclipse glasses and lodging, be wary of scams. Tessa Bentulin will take us through what to watch out for.
While many of us will be eyes to the sky during the eclipse, many animals here at June Farms will be having a different experience, so we checked in with the manager to find out what they have planned. June Farms is located on 120 acres of beautiful farmland in the Upper Hudson Valley. Visitors come from all over to see their cattle, horses, chickens, and pigs. The day of the eclipse will be no different for visitors, but we can't say the same for the animals.
I think of all the animals, the horses are probably going to be the most uneasy, maybe a little bit worried.
For some of them, life evolves around solar patterns. As the daily cycles of light and dark alternate with the seasons, they look upward for their cues on when to wake, when to eat, when to sleep, and when to reproduce. That's all according to the Washington Post. For example, horses can become disoriented during a solar eclipse.
While the eclipse is happening, in the beginning, if they seem uneasy, then we can always halter them and keep them tied up so they don't hurt themselves.
However, that won't be the same story for their other animals on the farm.
Cows probably be chewing on grass. Their head will be down most of the time anyway. Pigs will probably notice a difference, but they nap a lot, so they could just sleep through it.
The chickens got some special gear.
And the chickens, we bought little sunglasses for them, but they kept on shaking them off when they were pecking for food.
Nevertheless, the farmers are planning ahead, so they say there's no need to worry.
We've made some accommodations, but for the most part, we expect the animals to take it in stride.
The biggest thing is to check on your animals and, of course, monitor their behavior closely. Reporting for News Channel 13, I'm Tiffany Payton.
So my brother and I fell in love with boating, and
Rick Scanlon is a retired Albany firefighter. His first love is Lake George boating.
they live in the tan house.
Scanlon knows the lake well and can point out the best places to see. And on Monday afternoon, there's going to be something not seen around here in 100 years. The sun is blocked out here between 2:12 and 4:38. Scanlon will be right here on the lake, piloting his no-shoes cruises. Brendan Murnane, the owner of Bolton Landing Brewing Company and an amateur photographer, is hoping to break away from the festivities at his restaurant to join him.
Do you think a boat is a good place to see the eclipse?
Yeah, for sure. Especially if you head out and you're looking, west, you'll get a lot of the mountains heading that way, and you'll see a beautiful view of the eclipse and with the lake. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of other boats out there, so it should be a good time.
If the weather's nice, do you think there will be a lot of boats?
I think there'll be a really good turnout. I think you're going to see, especially for this time of year, a lot of boats, a lot of people kind of just drifting out there and just waiting, with all the glasses on and making sure that they get a good view of it.
No Shoes Cruises, which typically offers charters May through September, is offering rides on Eclipse Day.
Lake George won't have a total solar eclipse like Buffalo, Rochester, and Syracuse, but those places don't have Lake George.
Is this the next best place to be?
Of course, yeah, without a doubt.
Why so?
You'll get a good view. We're not in the total path of totality, but you will get a good view of it.
On Lake George, Mark Mulholland, News Channel 13.
This once-in-a-lifetime event is providing local teachers a real-life teaching opportunity. Kumi Tucker explains. The eclipse is a great teaching opportunity for local schools. In fact, Chaumont is even sending a group of students to Paul Smith's College to watch it. Kumi Tucker reports.
Here in a Chaumont Earth Science class, students did some demonstrations of the eclipse in advance of their April 8th trip to see it in person.
We are going to see the solar eclipse that is occurring across the United States.
It's a unique teaching opportunity.
This one's perfect. That's the moon. Yeah. So put it all in the right order. Let me see how you guys do this.
In Miss Holodak's class, students used models to show the positions of the Earth, Moon, and Sun. And the eclipse is also being studied in other classes. Senior Emily Rose is in environmental science.
We're looking for the animal aspect of the trip and how animals react to the solar eclipse. And as if they act as it's nighttime and it's ready to go in and go to bed.
The most exciting part of this trip is being able to see the students learn about what causes a solar eclipse. What are the animal behaviors going to be during the solar eclipse? How does the optics work with our eyes and the polarization of the glasses we need?
Here, a flashlight stood in for the sun. They used models to show the moon's shadow on the Earth.
Do we see how tricky it is that Selena's got to match it perfectly up with the Earth there to actually create the shadow?
Yeah, it shows a good demonstration about what is happening and how it's going to happen, because it only happens one time because of a full coverage.
Most of these students will soon head to Paul Smith's College in New York's Adirondack State Park up in Franklin County. It'll be in the path of totality. 10th grader Jacob Sawyer studies digital photography.
It's just another thing I can add to my portfolio. I think it'll make for great pictures. It's just really exciting. You're not going to see it again.
Chaumont is sending about 140 students, a mix of 8th through 12th graders in earth science, environmental science, physics, digital photography, science honor society, and human biology. It will be exciting to pull together all that they've learned and be able to see and experience it in person.
It's really, as a teacher, what your goal is. Can we teach this content in a way that the students are able to experience it in real life and apply what they've learned to this natural phenomena?
Students will be going up and coming back on the same day, and teachers have actually been planning this trip since 2023. They said this was too good an opportunity to miss. At Chalmont, Kumi Tucker, News Channel 13.
Thousands of people will converge on New York to watch the solar eclipse, and some will head to Sienna College. I went and visited their observatory and talked to Mindy Townsend, the Dudley astronomer at Sienna College. The school is having a watch party from 1 to 5 p.m. on April 8th. And while I got the first-hand look at the telescopes for this interview, you won't be able to use them for the eclipse, unfortunately. Townsend told me these telescopes do not have the right solar filter on them, so it'll burn your retinas, and that can be permanent. She said, though, this offers a nice opportunity for research.
Total solar eclipse, the moon is kind of perfectly covering just the disk of the sun, so we can really get that outer atmosphere all the way down to the surface of the sun. So for solar astronomers, this is a big deal because we can really study this thing that we can't study really any other time.
She says the next time New York will get this chance will be in 2079. Now, the challenge here is parking. Townsend says it's going to be nearly impossible to find parking on campus that day of the watch party, so she's begging people, please take public transportation, Uber or Lyft.
Still ahead, traditions from around the world imagine the eclipse as everything from the sun being eaten by monsters to an intimate meeting with the moon. Meteorologist Reed Kisselback will explore some eclipse stories and customs from around the world.
What do sky wolves, fire dogs, and the pursuit of peace all have in common? These are only some of the ways cultures around the world throughout the ages have explained solar eclipses. The Vikings described the eclipse as a pair of sky wolves chasing the sun or the moon. When one of the wolves caught either of the shining orbs, an eclipse would occur. Korean eclipse mythology involves orders from a king. The mythical canines called fire dogs try their best to capture the fiery sun or ice-cold moon. They always fail, but whenever they bite either orb, an eclipse results. Many cultures view the eclipse as the sun and moon fighting each other. They see it as a time to come together and settle their differences and let go of their anger. Even today, there are still many misconceptions. Here are just a few. Misconception number 1. Pregnancy complications. This misconception grew around another form of radiation that travels to Earth from the sun, neutrinos. According to NASA, every second, your body is pelted by trillions of these neutrinos, no matter if the sun is above or below the horizon. The neutrinos won't hurt us or any unborn children as they zip through the atmosphere. Misconception number 2. Eclipses will poison food that is prepared during the event. Native Alaskans interpreted an eclipse to mean that the sun was sick, so they turned over their pots and cooking utensils to avoid the sun's illness. Again, this is related to the false idea of harmful solar rays during a total solar eclipse. Misconception number 3. Eclipses are harbingers of doom. A classic case of what psychologists call confirmation bias. This is when we tend to remember all the occasions when two things happen together but forget all the other times when they did not. For example, in 763 BC, early Assyrian records mention an eclipse in the same passage as an insurrection in the city of Ashur, suggesting that the ancient people linked the two in their minds. Or when King Henry I of England, the son of William the Conqueror, died in AD 1133. The event coincided with a total solar eclipse. With a little work, you can also find numerous cases when something good happened. Perhaps with a little clarity, we can all come out of the darkness a little wiser, or at least a little sunnier. For News Channel 13, I'm meteorologist Reed Kisselback.
We've been paying a lot of attention to how people are going to view this total solar eclipse from down here on the ground, and rightfully so. It's where most of us are going to be. But for the more adventurous types, there's a different point of view, an up-close look up in the sky.
I mean, we have maps for the airplane, very similar to have maps for a car. It maps out restricted areas and elevations of the terrain.
David Prescott has been planning his day above the clouds on April 8th for more than a year.
We're going to actually try to get the total solar eclipse and actually try to kind of, if you will, chase it.
Prescott is a Navy veteran signing up right after high school as a nuclear engineer. He now owns Warbird Factory, a gem in the capital region tucked to the side of Albany International Airport, and he's the founder of the Prescott Foundation, which keeps history alive through restoring and displaying vintage aircraft, specifically World War II planes.
And we do this before every flight. You'll notice your airline captain is actually walking around the plane before you take off too.
Prescott will be in the pilot's seat Monday afternoon, flying from Syracuse to Plattsburgh along that path of totality.
I still remember seeing my first solar eclipse, as a first grader at a small elementary school in Iowa.
And that's why Prescott is big on people finding a way to experience this solar eclipse.
Kids remember things they actually see and they actually did. You can watch a solar eclipse on TV or you can see video of it, but that's not at all the same as seeing it in real life.
Now imagine seeing it from the cockpit of your own plane. That turns a once-in-a-lifetime moment for many of us into an unforgettable memory.
We likely will have people back on the moon again. NASA's working currently on putting people on Mars. That's this generation of kids now who are going to be watching this solar eclipse.
Prescott is prepared for more air traffic than normal, and he's also keeping track of any military training exercises along his flight plan. For someone who flew in a B-25 over the USS Arizona in Pearl Harbor for the 75th anniversary of the end of World War II and landed a plane at the Kennedy Space Center, he says what he hopes to experience on April 8th ranks right up there. Chris Honorato, News Channel 13.
You may be running out of time to grab those glasses to safely view the eclipse. Still ahead, Christina Talamo and Caitlin Erla will show us how you can make your own glasses to enjoy the show safely. Don't let the solar eclipse excitement block your good judgment. That's the warning from the Better Business Bureau. Scammers are out there trying to take advantage. Tessa Bentulin reports.
Don't be blindsided by scams. Whether it's a travel deal or knockoff Eclipse glasses, if the deal looks too good to be true, it is. The Better Business Bureau says if you're trying to book a hotel or a rental in totality, make sure you're familiar with the company and do your research.
Sometimes scammers are able to take legitimate pictures from another source and try to pass them off as their own. They might pressure you to put a deposit down before you've seen the place.
And in some cases, Katerina Schmieder says scammers are listing homes with fake addresses, so the properties don't actually exist. A simple Google search could keep you from falling victim.
Make sure you're dealing with a familiar event company. Make sure that the event actually exists. Always pay with a credit card because that's going to give you your best chance at getting your money back should you encounter a scam.
It's not just hotels in high demand. So are those handy Eclipse glasses that you need to wear to witness the event. But those knockoffs can be dangerous.
I know that the American Astronomical Society has said that they're seeing counterfeit glasses pop up. So there are a couple of things that people are just encouraged to look for as they purchase their glasses. I mean, number one, you want to make sure that they're ISO certified, and that should be clearly stated on the inside of the glasses. And number two, you just want to make sure that they actually look safe to you.
Schmieder says make sure your glasses are not damaged in any way.
If the lenses are punctured at all or the glasses look damaged, it's best not to use that pair. Also, if you're unsure, I know the American Astronomical Society has recommended taking them and giving them a test run. So, if you put them on even inside and take a look at something that's really bright, like a bright light, you should only be able to see that very faintly. If you're seeing other things in a room through those glasses, it's probably not a good idea to use them.
Tessa Bentulin, News Channel 13.
Earlier this hour, Caitlin Erla took us through where you can find the proper glasses to protect your eyes during the total solar eclipse. But if you still have trouble finding them, you could always build your own viewer at home. Caitlin and Christina Talamo show us how it's done.
Hi everybody, we know that total solar eclipse is coming up. A lot of people are very excited to go view the eclipse, and you might have had some trouble getting your hands on a pair of those eclipse glasses. Again, very dangerous to look at the eclipse, so want to make sure you do that safely. And if you aren't able to get your hands on a pair of those glasses, we're going to teach you how to make your very own total eclipse viewer at home. And you'll need a few ingredients here. Caitlin's gonna help walk me through it. I made one already. Caitlin's gonna make the second one for us here. Now we'll go through all of the things that you need, pretty much just household items that you have already. But we'll start off with a cereal box. It does not have to be Trader Joe's Crunchy Cinnamon Squares or Honey Nut Cheerios. It can be any type of cereal. You need a pair of scissors, some tape, Scotch tape is fine, sheet of aluminum foil, you really just need a small piece, a safety pin, or just any type of pin. We're gonna poke a very small hole into the foil later, and a white piece of paper that we're gonna end up cutting into small strips. All right, so what we're gonna do first, so I'll put my Eclipse viewer down. We'll start off with the Cheerios box. Now what we're gonna do first, you're gonna take your piece of paper, you're gonna wanna cut a strip out of your piece of white paper that is the same size as the bottom of the cereal box. And then what you're gonna do is you're gonna open the box,
okie dokie.
and you're gonna put this all the way on the bottom side, so it'll be on the bottom but on the inside.
On the bottom, gotcha.
And you're gonna tape it on there. This is gonna be our projector screen so that we can actually see the eclipse without looking directly at it.
All right, is that okay?
Yeah, it works, it works. All right, now we need to make the hole that the sun will go through, and then the hole that you're gonna look through, because how else are you gonna see it? So we got two holes on my box here, like that. So we are going to cut off these two edges on the side of the box. So Caitlin, you can do that. We won't need those.
Alrighty.
And then we're gonna wanna cut two squares on either side. So you can cut a little bit into these two here. And then we're gonna wanna secure it on the middle, in the middle between the two holes. All right, so now we have our two holes. Now the next step, we need to take a piece of aluminum foil. We want to completely cover the hole there. There you go. All right, now you can pick whichever side you'd like. I'll get you some pieces of tape there. We're all good. So we completely covered the one side with foil. Now the next step will be where we will need our
poke a hole, right?
Safety pin. Yeah, she's already ready. So what we're doing here, again, one of these holes is for your eye. You're gonna look through one of them, right? Now the other hole is gonna be where the sun shines through, so you can actually get a view of the eclipse. So take our safety pin, be very careful, it is sharp.
You want me to do it?
Yeah, you can do it. And try to make it as small as possible. You want a very tiny hole.
That's perfect.
Perfect, yes.
Yay.
So then what you're gonna do, right? During the actual eclipse, we'll pretend you're the sun, Caitlin's the sun. So the one hole you get to look through, and that aluminum foil side, or your back, is actually going to be faced towards the sun. So when you look through, the sun is going to shine through that very small pinhole in the foil. The foil helps block out too much of the sun. And then you're actually going to be able to see the eclipse reflected on that projector screen, that paper.
A white piece of paper.
On the inside.
Easy enough, like you said earlier, just things you probably have laying around your house already. Cereal boxes, tape, scissors, probably some safety pins, so.
Yeah, not so
easy
bad.
enough.
But yeah, so stay safe. Again, we talk about during a total solar eclipse, you don't want to be staring directly at the sun, so stay safe, make sure you view it carefully, safely, and happy viewing.
There are many who associate the eclipse with spirituality and even mystic and magic. Coming up, Steve Couge will take us to a local tarot card shop to hear from some true believers. there are many who believe there are spiritual, magical, and supernatural dangers involving eclipses. Steve Kuj takes us to Star and Splendor in Troy for the story.
Every card seemed to be echoing the political and like news events that were happening. It was very weird.
If you want a haircut, you go to a barber. If you want your car fixed, you go to a mechanic. If you want to know the magical inner workings of the universe, you go to Star and Splendor in the city of Troy.
I like to identify as a hermeticist, but I have been a long-time magical practitioner. I have dabbled in some witchcraft and a lot of practical magic.
The supernatural, the spiritual, the mystical. Amy Lahoff is our guide through it all, including eclipses.
I think there's something kind of like mysterious and dark and foreboding about the eclipse. During eclipses, if you're a little worried about how the energy is going to hit you, some people tend to feel depleted. Some people will get sick around the time of eclipses.
For thousands of years, much of mankind has worshipped the cosmic phenomenon. To this day, some even try to harness the invisible power they believe eclipses can provide.
It's a little bit of a chaotic time. Eclipses bring very unstable energy at times, so they can switch things up a lot. And traditionally, we would counsel people that it's not a great time to do a lot of spiritual and magical practice.
And it's not just magical practitioners that have to be wary.
Something interesting is how eclipses play out on a global scale, like particularly in politics. Like for the sun is associated with leaders, like the king. A lot of times, like political leaders rise and fall during eclipses.
For all of us, our zodiac signs could really mess with us in the days leading up to and after the eclipse. Just ask yourself, have you been extra moody lately? Astrologer Isabella Vasilakis has the reason why.
Be aware that emotions are at an all-time high, especially, if you're around everybody's emotions are at an all-time high. So if someone's annoying you, just have a little bit of grace with them. They're probably going through their own eclipse experience.
These masters of the occult say the eclipse may have all sorts of unintended consequences, especially for those that seek them out.
Someone actually entered the shop recently and said, I want to get prepared to do some manifesting magic during the eclipse. I want to manifest some business and some money. And I said, I would really suggest that you wait until the eclipse season is over to do that kind of magic, unless you want to just hemorrhage funds or just really explode your finances. It could kind of go either way.
It could be either a windfall or a complete backfire.
Yeah. Enjoy the eclipse in whatever way makes sense for you, and just protect yourself, take care, and just brace yourself for the unexpected.
Braced and ready. Steve Kuj, News Channel 13.
So here's the way things look right now. Believe it or not, the slow movement of this late season complex storm will play a big role in what happens here on Monday. Watch the slow movement of this over the Maritimes, and eventually it takes all the way to the end of the weekend for this to depart off the eastern seaboard. High pressure will build in its wake with a drier trend. Our attention then is turned to the next low out in mid-country. Look at all the clouds and showers Sunday into Monday out here in the Midwest. That's not good news there. But I think this high pressure will be strong enough to hold back the clouds just in time for the eclipse to come in on Monday with mostly sunny skies. You can see how close the clouds come. Syracuse, Rochester, Buffalo, not as favorable here as in the capital region. So to sum up this hour, here are some final tips for viewing this solar eclipse.
Get your eclipse glasses now. They will sell out as we get closer to the event. Plan ahead. If you're looking to stay in a hotel, be aware that most will be sold out, and others will have you shelling out more. Get to your destination early and try to spend eclipse night at or near your viewing location. Expect the highways to be extra busy in the aftermath of totality. Be self-sufficient, fill up your gas tank, and bring food and water. And finally, check with the News Channel 13 First Warning Weather Team as Eclipse Day approaches. We'll have the latest up-to-date forecast and advice on viewing the eclipse and whether you may need to relocate.
Thank you for joining us for this special presentation. News Channel 13 will have live team coverage across New York State on Monday. Special coverage begins at 2 o'clock. We'll take you to Rochester, Lake Placid, and Watertown as they enter totality, along with places around the capital region. If you'd like to see these stories and more, make sure you also visit the Eclipse section of our website at WNYT.com. From all of us at News Channel 13, thanks for watching and have a safe and happy viewing.